Welcome to Audiobook Zone. Human behavior is an intricate and fascinating topic, deeply influenced by biology, environment, culture, and even history. Behave offers a comprehensive look at the many layers that contribute to why we act the way we do, from the moment of action itself to the deep evolutionary history that shapes our instincts. By analyzing behavior through the lenses of neuroscience, genetics, psychology, and anthropology, the book delves into the complexities of decision-making, social interactions, morality, and much more. The goal is to understand the driving forces behind our actions by looking at the biological mechanisms in real time and through the entire lifespan. Before we start, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe to the channel and like the video to support our next video. Chapter 1: The Behavior. In this chapter, the focus is on what happens during the precise moment of a behavior. When we make a decision or act in a particular way, it might feel instantaneous, but in reality, it involves a sequence of complex processes happening in the brain. Behavior is the result of millions of neurons firing together, creating what seems like a seamless, conscious action. The brain's neurons are constantly communicating via electrical signals, but this communication is influenced by several systems. One of the key players is the prefrontal cortex, which helps us make decisions, control impulses, and plan actions. The prefrontal cortex is especially important for regulating behavior because it helps us suppress impulses that might not align with our long-term goals. However, not all behaviors are carefully thought out. Many are automatic, driven by the brain's limbic system, which is responsible for emotional responses and instinctual behavior. The behavior we exhibit at any given moment is often the result of a combination of thought, emotion, and external stimuli. The chapter emphasizes that even though we like to think we're in full control of our actions, much of what we do is shaped by parts of the brain that operate without conscious awareness. This means behavior is often automatic, with the brain responding quickly to cues in the environment. Chapter 2: 1 second before. A second before a behavior occurs, the brain is already preparing for action. This chapter takes a closer look at what happens just moments before we do something. Several brain regions, particularly the amygdala, begin to react to external stimuli, assessing potential threats or rewards. The amygdala acts as a fast-track signaler for emotions, especially fear and aggression, which can cause us to react before the rational part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, has a chance to weigh in. This immediate response can be useful for survival. For example, if we're in danger, the amygdala might trigger a quick reaction to protect us, such as jumping out of the way of an oncoming car. However, it can also lead to overreactions in situations where more thoughtful behavior would be better. The chapter explains how this rapid emotional processing is balanced by slower, more deliberate thinking that happens in the prefrontal cortex. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol also come into play in these brief moments. When we experience stress or fear, the body releases these hormones to prepare us for action, often causing physical symptoms like a racing heart or tense muscles. These bodily changes happen before we're even fully aware of what we're about to do, showing just how interconnected our brain and body are in shaping behavior. Chapter 3: Seconds to Minutes Before. This chapter zooms out slightly, looking at how the minutes leading up to an event can set the stage for behavior. Here, the brain's reward system is a crucial component. Dopamine, often referred to as the pleasure chemical, is released in anticipation of a reward, motivating us to take action toward achieving it. Whether it's something as small as reaching for a snack or something more significant like pursuing a long-term goal, dopamine drives us to act. But not all actions are driven by pleasure. Sometimes behavior is influenced by fear, stress, or the desire to avoid negative consequences. In stressful situations, the brain may release cortisol, which prepares the body to deal with the challenge. However, prolonged exposure to stress hormones can have negative effects, such as impairing memory or decision-making. In this short window of time before behavior occurs, mood also plays a significant role. Whether we're feeling happy, sad, or anxious can influence how we interpret and react to the environment. For instance, if we're in a good mood, we might respond to a challenge with optimism and persistence. On the other hand, if we're feeling stressed or upset, the same challenge might feel overwhelming, and we may react more negatively. Chapter 4: Hours to Days Before. Behavior is not just influenced by what happens in the minutes before an event but also by what happened hours or even days earlier. Sleep is a significant factor discussed in this chapter. When we're sleep deprived, our ability to think clearly, control emotions, and make decisions is impaired. Lack of sleep affects the prefrontal cortex, reducing our ability to exercise self-control and increasing impulsive behavior. Stress, which can build up over days, also plays a major role in shaping behavior. When we experience chronic stress, the body remains in a heightened state of arousal, which can lead to burnout, anxiety, and even physical health problems. Prolonged exposure to stress hormones like cortisol can damage brain cells in areas responsible for memory and emotional regulation, making it harder to cope with new challenges. This chapter also touches on how habits and routines influence behavior. Over the course of days or weeks, we develop patterns of behavior that can either help or hinder us. For example, someone who consistently practices relaxation techniques or mindfulness may be better able to manage stress and avoid impulsive reactions, while someone who falls into negative habits, such as procrastination or overindulging in unhealthy behaviors, might find it harder to respond effectively to challenges. Chapter 5: Days to Months Before. Looking even further back, this chapter explores how long-term factors, like experiences over the span of weeks or months, can influence our actions in the present. One major concept here is social learning. Over time, we observe how others behave, and these observations shape our own actions. If we see someone being rewarded for a particular behavior, we are more likely to imitate that behavior. This is especially true in social environments like the workplace or in family dynamics, where patterns of behavior are learned and reinforced over time. Another factor that shapes behavior over this period is habit formation. Habits are built through repetition, and once they're established, they often run on autopilot. Whether it's exercising regularly, eating healthy, or engaging in negative behaviors like smoking, these habits create a framework for how we act in different situations. The brain's basal ganglia, a region responsible for habit formation, helps automate these behaviors, freeing up mental energy for other tasks. Emotions also accumulate over time. If someone has been dealing with ongoing stress or frustration for weeks or months, they are more likely to be irritable or impatient in the present. Alternatively, positive experiences that build resilience can make us more equipped to handle difficult situations calmly. Chapter 6: Adolescence, or Dude, Where's My Frontal Cortex? This chapter takes a closer look at adolescence, a critical period of brain development that heavily influences behavior. During adolescence, the brain undergoes significant changes, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for impulse control, decision-making, and long-term planning. However, the prefrontal cortex is one of the last areas to fully mature, which is why teenagers often struggle with self-control and are more prone to risky behavior. The limbic system, which governs emotions and reward-seeking behavior, develops much earlier than the prefrontal cortex. This imbalance explains why teenagers are often more motivated by immediate rewards and emotions than by logical reasoning or long-term consequences. In other words, teenagers are biologically wired to take risks and seek out new experiences, even if those behaviors aren't always in their best interest. This chapter also discusses the role of peer influence during adolescence. Teenagers are highly sensitive to social cues and are more likely to engage in certain behaviors if they believe it will increase their social standing or help them fit in with a group. This is why peer pressure can be so powerful during these years, leading teens to engage in risky or impulsive behaviors that they might not otherwise consider. Despite the challenges, adolescence is also a time of tremendous growth and potential. The brain's plasticity during this period means that experiences and learning can have a lasting impact on behavior well into adulthood. Chapter 7, Back to the Crib, Back to the Womb. This chapter takes us back to the earliest stages of life, exploring how prenatal and early childhood experiences influence behavior. Even before birth, the environment in the womb begins to shape the developing brain. Factors such as the mother's nutrition, stress levels, and exposure to toxins can all affect fetal development, leading to long-term consequences for the child's behavior. The concept of fetal programming is introduced, suggesting that the conditions in the womb can affect how a child's brain develops and how they respond to stress, social interactions, and other environmental stimuli. For example, a child exposed to high levels of maternal stress during pregnancy may be more prone to anxiety or emotional reactivity later in life. Once a child is born, the quality of early caregiving becomes a crucial factor in shaping behavior. Secure attachment to a caregiver provides the emotional foundation for healthy development. Children who form secure attachments tend to have better emotional regulation, social skills, and resilience. On the other hand, children who experience neglect, abuse, or inconsistent caregiving may struggle with emotional and behavioral challenges. Early childhood is a period of rapid brain development, and the experiences a child has during these formative years can have long-lasting effects. The brain is incredibly plastic during this time, meaning it can adapt and change in response to the environment. This chapter underscores the importance of early intervention and positive caregiving in shaping a child's future behavior. Chapter 8, Back to When You Were Just a Fertilized Egg. This chapter goes even further back in time to examine the role of genetics in shaping behavior. From the moment an egg is fertilized, the genetic material inherited from both parents begins to influence the development of the individual. Our genes provide the blueprint for traits such as temperament, intelligence, and even predispositions towards certain behaviors. However, the chapter emphasizes that genes do not act in isolation. The environment interacts with genes in complex ways, shaping how they are expressed. This concept, known as gene-environment interaction, suggests that while our genetic makeup sets certain parameters for our behavior, it is our experiences that determine how those genes are activated or suppressed. For example, a person with a genetic predisposition toward anxiety may never develop anxiety symptoms if they grow up in a supportive and nurturing environment. Epigenetics, the study of how environmental factors influence gene expression, is also discussed in this chapter. Epigenetic changes can occur in response to diet, stress, exposure to toxins, and other environmental factors. These changes can alter how genes are expressed without changing the underlying genetic code, and in some cases, they can be passed down to future generations. This means that the experiences of our parents and grandparents can influence our behavior today. The chapter highlights the complexity of human behavior and the intricate dance between nature and nurture. Our genes provide the foundation, but it is our environment that shapes how those genes are expressed and how we ultimately behave. Chapter 9, Centuries to Millennia Before. This chapter explores how long-term historical and evolutionary factors influence behavior. Human behavior has been shaped by centuries of cultural evolution, as well as millennia of biological evolution. The chapter examines how historical events, social norms, and cultural practices have shaped our understanding of morality, authority, and social behavior. For example, many of the behaviors we consider normal today, such as forming hierarchies or adhering to social rules, have deep evolutionary roots. In early human societies, these behaviors were essential for survival. Hierarchies allowed for the efficient distribution of resources and protection from external threats, while social rules helped maintain order and cooperation within the group. The chapter also delves into the evolutionary origins of behaviors like aggression and cooperation. In our evolutionary past, aggression may have been necessary for securing resources or protecting the group from predators, while cooperation was essential for group survival. These behaviors continue to influence us today, even though the threats and challenges we face have changed. The chapter reminds us that human behavior is not just a product of our immediate environment or personal experiences but is also shaped by the larger forces of history and evolution. Our actions today are influenced by the behaviors and social structures that developed over thousands of years. Chapter 10: The Evolution of Behavior. Human behavior has evolved over time, shaped by natural selection and the need to survive in various environments. This chapter delves into the evolutionary history of behavior, exploring how certain traits and behaviors have been passed down through generations because they were advantageous for survival. One of the key concepts discussed in this chapter is the role of cooperation in human evolution. Early humans lived in groups, and cooperation was essential for survival. Individuals who were able to work together, share resources, and protect one another were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. As a result, behaviors like empathy, altruism, and fairness became deeply ingrained in human society. At the same time, competition and aggression also played a role in human evolution. In some cases, aggression was necessary for securing resources or protecting the group from external threats. This is why humans have the capacity for both cooperation and conflict. The chapter explores how these dual instincts continue to shape our behavior today, influencing everything from interpersonal relationships to large-scale social conflicts. The chapter also discusses the concept of mismatch theory, which suggests that many of the behaviors that were adaptive in our evolutionary past are no longer useful in the modern world. For example, our ancestors needed to be vigilant and react quickly to threats, but in today's world, this hyperreactivity can lead to anxiety or aggression in situations where it's not needed. Understanding the evolutionary roots of behavior can help us recognize why we act the way we do and how we can adapt to modern challenges. Chapter 11: Us versus Them. The us versus them mentality is a powerful force in human behavior, rooted in our evolutionary history. This chapter explores how and why humans divide people into groups, and how this division can lead to prejudice, discrimination, and conflict. In early human societies, belonging to a group was essential for survival. Group members provided protection, shared resources, and helped care for each other. As a result, humans developed a strong sense of loyalty to their own group, which often came at the expense of outsiders. This instinct to divide the world into us and them continues to influence human behavior today. The brain plays a significant role in this process. When we perceive someone as part of our group, we are more likely to show them empathy, trust, and cooperation. Conversely, when we see someone as part of an outgroup, we are more likely to be suspicious, fearful, or even hostile. These biases can operate at an unconscious level, shaping our behavior in ways we may not even realize. The chapter discusses how these biases can lead to conflict, but it also offers hope for overcoming them. Research shows that exposure to different groups, positive interactions with people from diverse backgrounds, and education can help reduce prejudice and promote greater understanding and cooperation. The key is recognizing our biases and working to overcome them, rather than letting them dictate our behavior. Chapter 12: Hierarchy, Obedience, and Resistance. Human societies have always been organized into hierarchies, with some people holding more power and influence than others. This chapter explores how hierarchies shape behavior, particularly when it comes to obedience and resistance. Throughout history, people have been willing to follow authority figures, even when it means going against their own moral beliefs. The famous Milgram experiment, in which participants were willing to administer what they believed were painful electric shocks to others simply because they were told to do so by an authority figure, demonstrates the power of obedience. But why do people obey authority, even when they know it's wrong? The chapter explores the social and psychological factors that lead people to obey. One key factor is the desire for social approval and the fear of punishment. In hierarchical systems, those at the bottom may feel powerless to challenge authority, leading them to comply with orders even when they disagree. However, people don't always obey. There are also examples of resistance, where individuals or groups challenge authority in the name of justice or morality. The chapter explores the conditions under which people are more likely to resist authority, such as when they feel a strong sense of moral conviction or when they are part of a supportive group that encourages dissent. This chapter reminds us that while hierarchies are a natural part of human society, we have the ability to question and challenge authority when necessary. Chapter 13, Morality in Doing the Right Thing, once you've figured out what that is. Morality is a complex and often subjective concept, shaped by a combination of factors, including culture, religion, upbringing, and personal experiences. This chapter explores how humans develop a sense of morality and what influences our decisions about right and wrong. Our brains are wired to make moral judgments, and certain regions, such as the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, play a key role in moral decision-making. Emotions like empathy, guilt, and shame also play a critical role in shaping our moral beliefs and actions. For example, empathy can motivate us to help others, while guilt can prevent us from doing something we know is wrong. However, morality is not always straightforward. Different cultures and societies have different ideas about what is right and wrong, and individuals may face moral dilemmas where there is no clear answer. The chapter explores how humans grapple with these dilemmas and the different strategies we use to resolve them. Ultimately, the chapter highlights the importance of reflection and critical thinking in moral decision-making. While our emotions and instincts may guide us, it's important to consider the broader context and potential consequences of our actions. Chapter 14, Feeling Someone's Pain, Understanding Someone's Pain, Alleviating Someone's Pain. Empathy is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior, allowing us to connect with others and understand their experiences. This chapter explores the science of empathy and how it influences our behavior. There are different types of empathy: emotional empathy, where we feel what others are feeling, and cognitive empathy, where we understand someone's feelings without necessarily experiencing them ourselves. Both types of empathy can lead to prosocial behavior, where we take action to help others. However, empathy is not always evenly distributed. We tend to feel more empathy for those who are similar to us or who belong to our in-group, while we may struggle to empathize with those who are different. This can lead to biased behavior, where we prioritize the well-being of some people over others. The chapter also discusses the limits of empathy. Sometimes, feeling too much empathy can lead to emotional exhaustion or burnout, particularly for people in caregiving roles. In these cases, it's important to balance empathy with self-care and emotional boundaries. By understanding the science of empathy, we can cultivate greater compassion and take meaningful action to alleviate the suffering of others. Chapter 15, Metaphors We Kill By. Language has a profound impact on behavior, particularly when it comes to conflict and violence. This chapter explores how metaphors and language shape our perceptions of others and justify actions that might otherwise be unacceptable. Metaphors are powerful because they frame how we think about a situation. For example, when political leaders refer to enemies as vermin or animals, it dehumanizes them and makes it easier to justify violence against them. These metaphors tap into deep-seated fears and biases, making it easier for people to accept or even support harmful actions. The chapter highlights the importance of being aware of the language we use and how it shapes our perceptions and behavior. By choosing more compassionate and respectful language, we can promote understanding and cooperation rather than division and conflict. Chapter 16, Biology, the criminal justice system, and, oh, why not? Free will. This chapter tackles one of the most complex and controversial topics in the study of human behavior, free will. If our behavior is shaped by biology, genetics, and environment, do we truly have free will? This question is particularly relevant in the context of the criminal justice system, where individuals are held accountable for their actions. The chapter explores the role of biology in criminal behavior, highlighting research that shows how certain brain abnormalities or genetic factors can predispose individuals to violent or antisocial behavior. However, it also emphasizes that biology is not destiny. While biological factors may influence behavior, they do not determine it. People still have the capacity to make choices and change their behavior. The chapter raises important questions about how we should approach issues of responsibility and punishment in light of our growing understanding of the biological factors that influence behavior. It challenges the traditional view of free will and suggests that a more nuanced understanding of human behavior is needed when it comes to issues of justice and accountability. Chapter 17, War and Peace. The final chapter explores the tension between war and peace, two seemingly opposing forces that have shaped human history. The chapter delves into the biological, psychological, and social factors that contribute to both conflict and cooperation. On the one hand, humans have a long history of violence and war, driven by competition for resources, territorial disputes, and the us versus them mentality. On the other hand, humans are also capable of remarkable acts of cooperation, compassion, and peacemaking. The chapter emphasizes that while war and violence are part of human history, they are not inevitable. Through empathy, communication, and understanding, humans have the capacity to resolve conflicts peacefully and build more harmonious societies. Conclusion. Human behavior is incredibly complex, shaped by a multitude of factors that span from milliseconds before an action to millennia of evolutionary history. By understanding the many layers that influence our actions, from brain chemistry and hormones to social norms and cultural evolution, we can gain deeper insight into why we behave the way we do. While biology and environment play a significant role in shaping behavior, we are not entirely at the mercy of these forces. Humans have the capacity for self-reflection, empathy, and critical thinking, which allows us to make conscious choices and change our behavior. By recognizing the influences on our actions, we can strive to act in ways that promote kindness, cooperation, and understanding. As we continue to explore the science of behavior, we can use this knowledge to create a better world, one where we are more aware of our biases, more compassionate in our interactions, and more thoughtful in our decisions. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the complexities of human behavior. If you found this exploration insightful, don't forget to like and share this video, and be sure to subscribe for more in-depth discussions on the science of life and the mind. Until next time, remember that understanding behavior is the first step toward creating a more compassionate and harmonious world.